Hello, welcome. I am your host, Chase Palumbo, and welcome to the first episode of the Philly Sports Podcast. So, today we will be making predictions on the Philadelphia Eagles schedule, as well as a game recap from last night from the Phillies and news from the Sixers and Flyers. So, first, let's go over the Philadelphia Eagles schedule. So, the Eagles are coming off their third consecutive playoff appearance, but, however, suffered one of the biggest collapses in NFL history in a 10-1 start to the season with an early exit in the wild card round of the playoffs, leading to changes in offensive coordinator with Kellen Moore and defensive coordinators Vic Fangio for the second consecutive season. However, there is still plenty of optimism around the Eagles, thanks to the busy front office trying to make the team a contender for the Super Bowl once again. Howie Roseman did a great job during so far this offseason with a huge signing for running back Saquon Barkley as one of the best free agents in the league this year. They also added corner Quayon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the first two rounds of the draft. They also saw the return of C.J. Gardner-Johnson in free agency. The Eagles also added Bryce Hoff to the pass rush effort and to add bigger edge rushers for Fangio's defensive scheme. This revamped roster could, in theory, make the Eagles a Super Bowl contender for 2024. The Eagles have a schedule as follows. Week 1 versus the Green Bay Packers in Sao Paulo, Brazil on September 6, 8:15 p.m. on Peacock. Here is my prediction for this game. I do think it's going to be a home game for the Eagles on foreign soil, and hopefully they can adapt well to the environment in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The game's at 8:15 p.m. Green Bay has some loaded offense with Josh Jacobs, with the recent adding of Josh Jacobs in running back and the continuation of Jordan Love as their starting quarterback. They also have a really good all-pro cornerback in Jair Alexander. However, Philadelphia's offense is loaded, and I do think they will come out with a win in Brazil against the Packers. As well, here's um, some more of my observations. So the Philadelphia Eagles will begin the season away from home for the fifth straight year. The franchise logged a stretch of consecutive road games to start a season since six straight from 1983 to 1988. As well, the Eagles and Cowboys, surprisingly, for the first time since 2006, will not be featured on primetime. This is just sad. This is pathetic. I don't know why the NFL will do this. This is probably the biggest rivalry in the NFL right now. The Eagles will have three games on CBS this season, including playing the Cowboys on CBS for the first time since 1993. They'll have six straight games either at 4:25 or 8 p.m. or later from week 8 through week 13. Philadelphia has five scheduled primetime contests for the third year in a row. They have appeared in the second most primetime games, 105 in the NFL, dating back to the year 2000. They will play four home games over the final 5 weeks of the regular season for the first time since 1951. So hopefully it prevents them from totally collapsing like they did last season after a 10-1 start. Following a Sunday night football matchup on the road against the Rams in Week 12, the Eagles will not only have to travel by plane over the last 6 weeks of the season. Now, let's go for my prediction for Week 2. So Week 2 is against the Falcons on September 16th at 8:15 p.m. So the Eagles will fly 10 plus hours to Brazil, then fly back, but they will be rested thanks to a Monday night football matchup against the Falcons and at home. This is their home opener. Kirk Cousins will be the starting quarterback for the Falcons, and with a loaded Falcons offense, but I do think they're not so good on defense. When the Eagles' high-powered offense, the Eagles should be able to pull out with a win. Next, Week 3, Sunday, September 2nd, at New Orleans in the Superdome. So, the Eagles probably will be somewhat tired since they do not have that week's rest. But I do think the Eagles defense, this is going to be a big game for the Eagles defense. With such as the Saints do have many weapons, such as Alvin Kamara for their wide receiver. So I do think if we can stop Calvin Kamara, the Eagles could pull out the win. However, the Eagles have struggled in the Superdome historically. They haven't won there since 2007. But I do think Jalen Hurts will play well against a Dennis Allen defense, propelling the Eagles to 3-0. Next, Week 4 at Tampa Bay. This game will be at 1 p.m. and September 29th on Fox. Um, So the Eagles will be looking for some revenge for the 32-9 wildcard loss against Tampa Bay. Uh, they've been waiting on this moment since January, and I do think that the Eagles will come out with a win, especially if they can pressure Baker Mayfield and be able to get a few turnovers on defense. Next, Week 5, the bye week. So yeah, this is a really early bye week for the Eagles. Um, so I do think it will be good for the players to get rest. However, then they'll have to play 13 games straight to finish out the season. So yeah, it is a long stretch of games after the bye week. All right, week 6, Sunday, October 13th, versus Cleveland at 1 o'clock p.m. So, after one of the earliest buys in recent memory, Philadelphia returns home to face a loaded Cleveland squad. However, the Vic Fangio's defense breaks out against Deshaun Watson, and the Eagles do pull out with a win. So, record so far for my predictions is 4-0. So I do think they'll win the first 4 games of the season. Week 7 versus New York Giants. It will be a return for Saquon Barkley to the Meadowlands. As you know, he was sent to free agency by not signing with the Giants and signed with the Eagles. I expect Saquon Barkley to have a really big game, and I do think the Eagles will win. All right. Week 8, Sunday, October 27th at 6 in Cincinnati versus the Bengals. I do think this game will be close. The two quarterbacks are one of the better quarterbacks in the league, with Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. As well as the Bengals having weapons for Jamar Chase as a wide receiver. I do think this game will be close. However, I do think the Bengals will come out with a win. So, I do think the Eagles will be 6-1 by week 8. Week 9, Sunday, November 3rd, versus Jacksonville at 8:20 p.m. Philadelphia returns home from a Monday night contest against their former head coach, Doug Peterson, the only coach in the Super Bowl era to win a Super Bowl for the Eagles. However, Jacksonville is much improved, and their quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, has been getting better each season. But I do think the result does favor the Eagles, so the record now would be 7-1 in Week 9. All right, now we go over to Week 10. Week 10, Sunday, November 10th. Their first game against the Eagles' old rival, the Dallas Cowboys, at 4:25 p.m. Philadelphia hasn't won in Dallas since 2017. That is now 6 years they haven't won in Dallas. So I do think Dallas could come out with a win. So I do think the Eagles will lose against Dallas. OA in Dallas. Week 11, Thursday, versus the Washington Commanders at 8:15 p.m. So the Washington Commanders has a new quarterback in Jaden Daniels and Zach Ertz, the former Eagle, as their new tight end. But I do not think that will impact the outcome of the game. So I do think the Eagles will win, especially since the Commanders has lost one of their better defensive players in Chase Young. Week 12, Sunday, November 24th, in the city of Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium versus the Rams. Last season, they got the win in LA. And I do think they will get the win if they are able to stop Aaron Donald, which having the better offensive lines in the league for the Eagles, I do think they will be able to. But I am concerned about the secondary. But we did add Quaydon Mitchell in the draft. So I do think that if the Eagles can stop Cooper Kupp, I do think the Eagles will come out with a win. Yeah, but I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game, especially with two really good wide receivers on for the Rams and Eagles. So, as in AJ Brown and Cooper Kupp, I do think it will be a shootout. So it's going to be a very high-scoring game. Week 13, Sunday, December 1st, in Baltimore against the Ravens at 4:25 p.m. The Ravens do have the toughest schedule in the NFL outside of Cleveland, and they'll be looking in a mirror against the Eagles team with an elite quarterback with a similar skill set as Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson can run. They are really fast. I do think it will be a close game, but I do think the Lamar Jackson will have one of his better games, and he will have more rushing yards than Jalen Hurts, and just be more successful on offense. So I do think the Eagles will lose. Week 14, Sunday, December 8th, versus Carolina at 1 o'clock p.m. I do think Bryce Young will improve in his second year, and Dave Canals will have the Panthers be competitive, but I do not think they will get the win in Philadelphia. The Panthers are a very young team, and the Eagles do have some talent on their defensive and offensive sides with experienced veterans like Brandon Graham. Week 15, Sunday, December 15th, versus Pittsburgh. The Steelers will be in a revenge game of sorts for Kenny Pickett, but his services won't be needed. Mike Tomlin's team always improves down the stretch, and I do think the Eagles will lose late. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be down to the wire. I think it'll come down to the last 2 minutes, but I do think the Steelers will come out the win. So far, uh, through week 15, I have the Eagles being 12-3. Week 16, Sunday, December 22nd, at Washington. The Eagles and Commanders have split the last 2 seasons. However, um, following a loss from the Steelers, the Eagles will be looking to bounce back against the Washington Commanders. I do think this Philadelphia team is a very different squad from last season, so I do think they have improved for the better, and I do think that they will be able to beat the Commanders in Washington, winning the game. Week 17, another big game versus Dallas Cowboys, 4:25 p.m. This time in Philadelphia. I think it'll be a close game, especially since these teams are known rivals. But I do think since the Eagles do have the home field advantage, the Eagles will come out with a win. And week 18, they haven't released a time for this game yet, or the TV channel it will be on, but I know it is against the New York Giants. If the Eagles do avoid the season class like they had last season, I do think Kenny Pickett could get a pretty good game against the Giants. And I do think they will win. So, my final prediction for the Eagles record, I'm going to go 15-3. All right. Next, let's talk some Phillies baseball. All right. Last night, the Phillies lost in extra innings against New York Mets. This happened in extra innings when Pete Alonso hit a home run and JT Martinez hit a go-ahead singer to put the 11th to put New York up by 2. However, In the bottom of the 11th, the Phillies did bounce back with 1 run. Starling Marte did have a good game for the Mets. Kyle Schwarber and Alec Boehm hit RBI doubles for the major league leading Phillies, who are 31-14, who lost for only the 4th time in their last 20 games. Philadelphia is 10 games ahead of the Mets in the NL East, so it's not like this game mattered anyway. As well as Atlanta losing in Washington. And the bottom 2 teams coming out with wins yesterday. Yeah. So yeah, neither team scored in the 10th, but the Mets did get 2 runs off in the 11th off of Jose Alvarado. Yeah. And the last out for the Phillies was Kyle Schwarber as he struck out with the bases loaded. Pete Alonso had his 10th homer of the season, where he drove a ball 439 feet deep into the left field seats. I do think the Phillies have been somewhat affected from the absence of Trey Turner at shortstop. Right now, Trey Turner is right now. Trey Turner is dealing with a left hamstring strain. He was placed on the 10-day injured list on May 4th, although he hasn't disclosed the specific severity of the strain. He expects to miss approximately 6 weeks. Trey Turner is really good on the Eagles' offense and Phillies' offense and defense, and yeah, it's gonna be a big impact without him. Um, yeah. Let's talk about the pitching this game. Following a shutout from Aaron Nola in the 3rd game of the Phillies versus Mets series, the Phillies pitching wasn't up to expectations this game. They played the Mets yesterday. As you know, they lost. Um, Jose Lopez for the Mets got the win. Jose Alvarado with the loss. This is Lopez's first win for the Mets, with Alvarado being handed the loss. Jose Alvarado is 1-2 on the season with an ERA of 3.86. He has 8 saves and 18 strikeouts. Yeah, I do think there was a somewhat questionable decision from Rob Thompson in the 5th inning. With who's pitching in that inning? Let me check. Hold on. Um, Hold on. Let me check. Play by play. Here it is. Yeah. So here it is. They did not the Phillies did not generate a lot of offense late in the game, but in the bottom of the sixth, the Phillies did score, tying up the game with Alec Bohm singling to left field, Romito scoring, Harper being safe at third, and Bohm safe on second on a throwing error by the Mets left fielder. And let's go to the top of the eighth. No, bottom of the seventh, where Stock gets walked to get put on base. Kyle Schwarber up next. He doubles to right, which Stott scores, and it's 3-2 Philadelphia. However, Rio Nito popped out shortstop, ending the inning with 1 run and 1 hit for the Phillies. Next, we have Jeff Hoffman pitching for Philadelphia. He struck out Francisco Lindor, who has not been really good this season. Yet. However, a pitch does hit Jeff Hoffman in the back, causing some of the players to be concerned about him being potentially injured. And he does throw a wild pitch, which advances Brad Bader to third and has Pete Alonso score on a 4-3. The Mets, yeah. And he also gave up a single to Brad Bader. Taylor scored on an error. Alonso was at second on the previous play, and Brad Bader was safe at second on an error. Alonso safe on third by throwing error by center fielder Brandon March. So not really good defense on the top of the eighth. I just think they made really stupid errors. They did not. I don't think if they made those errors, they would have played the game, but won the game. However, Jeff Hoffman was hit in the back. Yeah, this happened twice this game, with Jose Alvarado being hit by pitch off the bat and Jeff Hoffman. Jose Alvarado did have to leave the game when he got hit in the leg. Hopefully he's better by then, but let's see. Yeah. It doesn't look like he's on the injured list right now, so that is a good sign. But he did have to get taken out of the game. Yeah, it's weird because like Major League Baseball, I feel like pitcher injuries have been increasing by a lot. There are so many pitchers getting Tommy John surgery. Like I do think right now, being a major league pitcher is probably the most dangerous position in all of sports. You got balls coming off the bat at hundreds of miles per hour, like almost hitting you, or sometimes even hitting you, as well as throwing a ball as hard as you can, uh, repeatedly. Yeah, which can lead to like Tommy John surgery. Now, there was the next meeting for the Phillies against the Mets will be in London. Yeah. So yeah. Baseball is slowly becoming more popular in other countries such as Europe, and yeah, I do think in the near future the MLB might establish some professional leagues in other continents such as South America, Europe, Asia, even Australia. It would be cool to see that if they had a tournament um, with teams all around the world from those leagues, the top three teams, and yeah, having a 18 team tournament to see who's the best team in the world. All right, that's it for the Phillies. Let's go to the Sixers. So as you know, the Sixers had a pretty disappointing season with Joel Embiid being out most of the season. Uh, he Joel Embiid is such an important player for the Sixers. I think he's. I think if Joel Embiid isn't playing good, the Sixers aren't playing good. It's that simple. Now there have been some rumors on Sixers being involved in getting Donovan Mitchell from Cleveland. The Sixers have some current and future draft picks, but they only have four players under secure contract for 24-25 season. Three of them are non-guaranteed, and the other is Joel Embiid. The Sixers are not moving on Embiid nor Tyrese Maxey in any potential Mitchell deal. That leaves draft assets and cap relief, which is likely not going to entice Cleveland. So I do not think they will not get Devon Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell. Um, yeah, I do think Tyrese Maxey has improved a lot this season and last season. Uh, he was an All Star this season for the first time, and yeah, I expect to see him in many more All Star games in the future. I do think he's a big part of this Philadelphia Sixers team. All right, yeah. Now let's go to the 76ers for their draft. As you know, the NBA draft has been going on right now. Um, and let's see who the Sixers need. So for the first round, they have the number 16th pick, and for the second round, they have the number 41st pick, and they did forfeit the 49th pick. Um, yeah, Daryl Morrow did make several trades on Thursday that shipped out and brought back some draft capital in the process. So hopefully the Sixers will get some young talent all the way for the year 2030. Um, yeah. So here's who I think the Sixers will pick in the first round. I'm gonna go with Sean George out of Miami. He's a 6'8", uh, weigh 206 pounds. He is a guard and wing with a big time upside ability. He gets where he wants on the court, despite not having a great first step or quickness, but he has shown a pretty good 3-point shot, which the Sixers do desperately need, hitting over 40% from three this year. He's a standout and versatile defender. So yeah, I do think that's what the Sixers will go for in the first round. All right. Next, let's go to the Flyers. If there's any news on the Flyers, all right. The the Flyers do have some pretty good prospects in minor league right now, with the Flyers prospects winning the OHL championship and advancing to the Memorial Cup. They have conflicting reports of goaltender Alexei Koltsov reportedly may return to the KHL after a brief appearance in North America last month for the Flyers as their goaltender. So, who will be the starting goalie? As you know, Carter Hart got in some pretty big trouble, and he was a promising goalie for the Flyers' future. But he was released from the Flyers organization, and now the position of starting goalie for the Flyers is uncertain. So yeah, that's going to be it for the first episode of the Philly Sports Podcast. Thanks for watching. My name is Chase Palumbo, and I will see you next time.